Mm-hmm. Hey, 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 what's up, YouTube? What's up, Facebook? We hope everybody is doing well this evening. We got another Relationship Thursday in the house this evening.
What's going on? What's happening?
As y'all are coming in the chat room, please let us know where y'all are tuning in from.
Not a chat.
On this Facebook Live and
We're
YouTube
on Facebook Live and YouTube
Please let us know in the
chat
chat where you're coming from. Let us know where y'all are coming in from, and we're gonna definitely.
Our Black Marriage Day workshop here in the DMV.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
And I'm so happy I finally got to see you in your booth. Shannon, I see you. What's going on, sis? How are you? Y'all, we're going to talk some real talk tonight. It is going to be a night where if you're not really trying to get emotional, if you're like, I don't want to do all that, then I'm just saying, like, I don't want you to run away from this. But if you ain't built for it today, then you might not want to stick around. But I think that most people are built for it, but oftentimes we don't think that we are. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about defeating the fear of change in your relationship.
Absolutely.
Ooh, that thing right there can be hard. It can be very rough. Defeating the fear of change in your relationship. Go ahead and let us know who you are viewing from. I see Janet Jones in Westmoreland County, Virginia.
See, we got Texas in the house. We got ATL. Danielle from the ATL is in the house.
Hey, Rocky, I see you. I see you. Oh, yeah. I see Rochelle. Rochelle, welcome to our live stream this evening. And Danielle and Jade and Music Lover. I like that name, Music Lover.
So I think the way we need to start this thing off is by first and foremost introducing who we are.
Well,
we always seem to talk without telling people who we are. So let's go ahead and introduce ourselves. My name is Ayize Ma'at, and this right here is my delectable, my lovely, the queen of my life, my sick Pookie Pie, my wife, the mother of my 5 children, my baby's mama. Iyanna, my wife, my love of my life.
I'm Iyanna. We are licensed therapists. We are relationship coaches. We are married. We are in love. We do this not just because we feel called to do it, but because we don't have a choice. Because it's a part of our responsibility. And actually, we think that every married person, everybody who's striving and trying to be in a successful relationship has a responsibility to kind of like speak up and say what that's really all about. Talk about the realness of it, talk about the struggle of it, but also talk about the strengths and the successes and the beauty and the sweetness of it. Because too many people give marriage a bad rap.
Yeah, they do.
They give, being in a committed relationship of any kind, anywhere, anyhow, like, ain't nobody got time for that because you just about to be hemmed up and locked down and tightened up and all of that. And the reality is that this man right here, this relationship right here, my marriage has not tightened me up. It has set me free. It really has. It set me free. I mean, I ain't saying I ain't had to go through some changes. I ain't saying I ain't had to get tight on the way. I ain't been through a process with a tight face. I'm just saying it has set me free. So I see you as you're coming in. Please, again, let us know where you're coming from. Wisconsin is in the house. Tracy is from San Antonio, and LaDonna, I like that. LaDonna is from San Diego, California.
So like my wife just mentioned, y'all, we've been doing this relationship thing now for 23 years, together for 23, married for 15. We got 5 children. And as I always say on all of these live streams, while we are licensed therapists, the reality is that this right here ain't therapy. It's information, it's edutainment. And so take it, digest it, sift through it, twinkle it or move it through your fingers, manipulate it, and really, really take what you can, extrapolate what you can from it and apply it to your life. It's some good stuff that we're giving. If you need to see a therapist, you can reach out to us or reach out to a therapist in your local area.
So tonight especially, you'll be able to think about what we're sharing, and you'll be able to think about your own relationship, the one that's to come if you're not yet in a relationship, and you'll be able to think about yourself. And you'll be able to get some jewels. So what we need to do It's just go on and get started.
Yeah.
But before we get started, we want you to share this video. Please share this video. Share this video. Again, we're talking about defeating the fear of change in your relationship tonight, because you know what? Growing emotionally and getting into this change thing, because that's what real relationships require you to do. They require you to change some things. And if you think that you're going to go in and stay the same, because I hear people say that, I'm not going to change. And actually, on some level, there is some truth to that, because our core personalities, some of the core aspects of who we are, you know, oftentimes I ask women when they're complaining about the man, like, well, was he like this when you was dating? Was he like this in year 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10? So on year 11, you want him to shift what? And so there are some things that will change ultimately over time, but true, real, deep change, especially the kind of change that brings you closer to your partner, that brings you closer into seeing who you are, like how good you are, how great you are and fabulous you are, and the fact that you got some funky stuff that's stinking up the relationship. That type of change is hard work.
It is.
It is, isn't it?
Really is.
You know about it.
I do. I'm very familiar with it. I'm well acquainted with it, and you know,
with change.
With change, but also the difficulty in attempting to make the change, and then also even when you make the change, really sustaining the change over the course of a significant period of time. It's really hard, y'all. And you know, I think that one thing that we definitely need to do is to relax, release, and give ourselves some grace through this whole transformation and change process. It's not easy. It's really not easy, and sometimes we lift up unrealistic expectations when it comes to ourselves individually, but then sometimes we also have unrealistic expectations for the relationship. We got unrealistic expectations for our partner, and so it's important that we make sure that we're monitoring and we're regulating. Say in your relationship, if you've been dating somebody who was cheating on you prior to getting married, if you've been dating somebody who was financially irresponsible prior to you getting married, and then the expectation is that somehow he or she is going to miraculously change after he or she says I do, that right, it's erroneous thinking, y'all. Yeah. It's erroneous thinking. And so again, it's not to say they don't want to. It's not to say that they don't love you, that they don't want to improve. But again, change takes time, and it's a process.
Change is incremental. Yeah. So here's what I want to set the tone with tonight. I want you to, again, get your notepad out. You need to take notes and pay attention to what really stands out for you. And I see you coming in from Gainesville, Florida. Shay, I was just thinking about you earlier. Like, this child going to say, hello, Iana, can you email me back? I'm going to do it tonight. I promise. Dave, I see you from Philly, and Letice is representing Northeast in the house. And Miss Rhea, she said, I'm not married, but I desire to be. So welcome again. Please share this video with whomever you think it may be helpful to. Tag a couple of people, put it on your page. So I want to set this kind of tone, okay? So let's think about this for a minute. Change. Really, the only constant thing in life is change. Whether it's for you yourself or whether it's in your relationship, change is always being requested of you. You may not recognize it. You may not see it. You may not understand that actually is the solution to your perceived problem. But ultimately, in some way or another, when you recognize that a change is needed, and then you do the work to make the change within yourself and stop focusing on your partner, stop focusing on other people around you, stop focusing on how the situation could be better. But if we only have more money, and if we only, spend more time, and what can you do to change, and how will that change your situation? But I want to say this, some growth happens naturally. It happens because your brain develops as you continue to get older and grow. That just happens naturally because you have more life experiences, the passage of time, you may have major life events that really change you, so that kind of stuff happens naturally. That happens here and there. Here and there. But change, true change, for the most part, we have to fight forward. We have to fight for it. Fight forward and fight for it. I want y'all to understand that most true change that really makes you have to pause and makes you have to dig down and say, am I going to do this or am I not? Is it worth it? Is it not? Am I going to acknowledge how difficult this is? And am I going to sit and stew in this pain or in this truth or whatever I got to do and whatever I got to go through to get to the change? Most of the pain like that, change that needs to happen like that, that doesn't happen naturally. That doesn't usually happen just because time passes, whatever, right? That stuff will sit with you when you are 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80. You go to your grave with the same stuff not having changed because you did not fight for it and you did not fight through it. And so I just want you to understand tonight that real change does have to be pursued. It has to be pursued. You have to actually move towards it, or you will look up and you'll say, damn, I'm sitting in the same old funky ass relationship. I'm still dealing with the same old stuff. I'm still, talking about the same issues. Why is that? Because you haven't challenged yourself to really make the change that you need to make. And perhaps you are focused on other people and other things. And for real, you the one that need to make a change. Well,
yeah, that's really significant right there. I see Blair shared the video. Y'all go ahead and please feel free to share the video.
I want to shout out Vanessa. Thank you for sharing, dear.
Yeah, so the point that my wife lifts up is very important, y'all. It's really important because, I think that oftentimes it's easy for us to look externally and see other people or other things and other situations as being the barrier or the deterrent to change taking place in a relationship. But the reality is that if we really look at our relationships, if you were to do something different, if you were to do something different, then it's going to affect change in a relationship. And so again, if you think that your partner is the only solution to the obstacles that y'all experience in a relationship, then you're wrong. You're wrong. You have an impact on the relationship based off of what it is that you do. So you got to make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, that you're the one that's making the change. And also in your change, setting the example and showing and demonstrating for your partner that change is possible. Because trust and believe, he or she is watching. My wife said that you got to focus on you first. And the reason why we say this is because if you think about the iceberg theory of success, what often is said is that it's only 20% of the iceberg that you actually see. Only 20% of the iceberg that you actually see. The other 80% is beneath the water, y'all. The other 80% is the subconscious mind, y'all. The other 80% is the stuff that you got to deal with, that baggage, that stuff that you're walking around with. You got to lift that stuff up. You got to unpack it. You got to wrestle with it. You got to grapple with it. When you deal with that 80%, then that 20% that you show out to the world, it starts to look different. That 20% that shows up in your relationship, it starts to look different. So again, once you deal with that stuff that's in the underbelly of your life, that's in the underbelly of the relationship, again, your relationship will look different because you're looking different.
All right, guys. So this is where we're going tonight. We're talking about change. Mashikia, I don't know if I said your name right, sis, but I see you representing Memphis, and Tina Bates Scott, our sister from the DMV or in this area. Desiree, I see that you just joined us. So welcome, welcome, welcome. Again, we're talking about defeating the fear of change in your relationship. It is inevitable and it is a choice. So we want you to make sure you understand that. So what we're going to do, we're going to talk about 3 ways that the growing pains that can happen in you and in a relationship can hold you back. And we're going to give you 3 ways that you can cope with keep on growing. 3 ways that can hold you back, right? The growing pains and that kind of stuff. And 3 ways you can cope with it and just keep on going, understanding that it's all a part of the process.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
I mean, in all transparency, do you like change? Do you race toward change? Do you?
No. I'm a seeker and but I don't. Who likes change? I mean, y'all let me know. Some people like. Well, let me just say this. I like a change in environment, a change in activity, something new and exciting. But stuff that's going to really challenge me, I mean, no. I mean, for real, let me just be honest. Anybody out there understand what I'm talking about? Most folks are not running towards change. Yeah. That's why, anybody know about this when you start a new job? You like, I always say to people, you can't stand being, the new person on the job. You can't wait for that part to be over, right? When you're, the new person and people are introducing you, you're not familiar with where you're supposed to go to the supply closet to get stuff from. And you don't know, who to talk to about this or that, right? You can't take people around. Right. All that kind of stuff. And then after a while, right, you get comfortable. You get your own way that you drive to work, right? You know where to stop off at. And you come in, you got your people you talk to in the morning and y'all, talking smack. and then you go, right, you get comfortable. And we crave that as human beings, I think. We crave that level of comfort. So, Dave, you could not have said that any better. Dave says, change brings prosperity in a marriage. Be uncomfortable to be comfortable. Boo, 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 boo.
Yeah.
I had to give you that, Dave. That was good. So here's the first thing that we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about 3 ways, right?
Yeah.
The growth process in marriage and in a committed relationship can cause growing pains, right? When you're growing, it impacts the marriage or the relationship, and it can cause growing pains, and it can hold you back. Okay. Again, please share this video
please share
on your page with people you think might benefit. So this one is a very common one. And a lot of times, a lot of us say, like, I don't really care what people think. I don't really care if they think that what I'm doing is appropriate or is not, or if they, have an opinion. I do me. And, that sounds real good. I'm one of them people. I will say that, right? But ultimately, a lot of times, way down deep on the inside, we sometimes don't want to acknowledge that the reactions from people that you care about make you feel guilty or negative. And because they are reacting to the change that you are trying to bring to your household or that you're trying to bring to your own personal life, right, in a way that is not positive, in a way that maybe is very indifferent, maybe it's not supportive, or maybe it's downright like, disrespectful, like, why are you doing that, right? Because they're coming at you that way, it can make you kind of just pull back. You don't share as much with them about your process. You might be trying to do something in terms of entrepreneurship. You might be trying to increase your spiritual life. You might be trying to get the finances in order. You might be trying to get your weight right. You might be doing any number of things, right? It could be anything. And people start to be like, I don't know about all that. And it makes you feel guilty. Oh, you're trying to get the finances together. And so then that means you're trying to say that I can't do some things as much as I do for you and as much as I do for this household or whatever. And now you feel guilty. Now you feel like in some way you're not providing or showing up in the way that you really could. And so then you want to hold back. But you know that in order for you and in order for your family to get to the place where you want to get, right? Like somebody got to move. We can't keep doing this. We can't stay in the same old spot. Right. But you hold back. That's a growth pain because your partner is not going to always be in alignment with you. Oftentimes, they're not going to be in alignment with you. I said oftentimes. And somebody got to still be willing to deal with the pains of that may feel like criticism, that may feel like separation, right? And not being on one accord so that you can go to the next level.
That's really profound. I mean, I was going to make some commentary around that in terms of turning towards your partner and the guilt you may feel in terms of turning away from friends, peers, colleagues, or whomever it may be, sometimes and just the discomfort. Yeah. So when you mention turning away, not even turning away from your partner, but turning towards self and trying to elevate self. And look at this, y'all. So when it comes to your own spiritual and personal development, elevating self is a very lonely journey. It's a lonely journey in the sense that you're responsible for your own growth. Your partner is not responsible for your own spiritual elevation and evolution. You're responsible for that. And so to some degree, it's a lonely, and somebody said, move in silence. It's a silent, lonely journey that you're experiencing when you're trying to elevate and go to the next level. So you can share bits and pieces and parts of your experience with your partner. But the reality is that in order for you to get through that door, you got to walk through that door on your own. So if you're trying to grow, you got to grow on your own. So you got to make the commitment. You got to have the dedication, the determination, the discipline to actually do the work. And it's a lonely journey. Again, you can bring your partner along, but it's your decision as to whether or not you're going to include them.
Yes.
They can't do it for you, but you got to invite them to walk with you.
So I want to give one more example because it can be in some of the ways that I just talked about. You're trying to make some big moves, maybe with starting a business or trying to, shake up your finances and whatever, right? But it can also be, this is also actually a big move, but it can be in more subtle ways. So we talk often about codependence. So we talk a lot about how oftentimes people who are in relationship, who are married together or who are drawn together, if one person has a tendency to be codependent, the other person may have a tendency to be a little demanding. And they kind of work well together in many ways because they can complement each other in the fact that somebody's kind of needy and the other person is like, I need to give to you. And so you both meet the other need in the person, if that makes sense. Because a codependent person is oftentimes looking outside of themselves, trying to, make sure everybody else is okay and not taking care of themselves, right?
Yeah.
And thank you, Blair, for sharing the video.
Hey, thank you, Anika, for sharing.
But the other person who may be very demanding emotionally or very demanding in what they're looking for and what they want, you know, they also have some things that they're getting met by that person. And so listen to this little example. I found this online, and it's so subtle, right? It's so subtle, but it's so big. So here it is, as they always did, because Shelly's codependent, and she typically just is like goes with whatever is wants, right? Because that's her role. That's what she does. And so instead of her normal situation, her normal response, she says, "I really want to see that new blah 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 movie, whatever, right? Can we go to that one?" And she said that very unexpectedly, and Mark almost jumped, it says in this little example. He was so taken aback. He felt a jolt of anger that his wife would be so selfish as to request a movie that he had no interest in at all. Now that may seem really, really simple, and maybe it might even seem silly, but there's a dynamic that's been set up in that marriage, right? We're looking at the example of a movie, right? Where we gonna go see. But there's a dynamic that's been set up where one person expects that the other person will kind of just do what you always done. Go along to get along, not express your opinion, not share your preference, not ask to be valued, or maybe just simply lift up what you need. And as soon as you start to say, wait a minute, I'm trying to elevate because I need to grow. I can't keep doing this, right? And you try to change, your partner got the nerve to get an attitude and get mad and get angry, and they should be rooting for you, right? Like, hey, that's good. That's let me find out. But wait a minute, don't do that over here. You say, you know what I'm saying? Like, be codependent with me on this one, right? And I know I be having some of them. That's why he looking like that. I know, you know, I ain't never said it like that, but you know, for anybody who follows us knows my husband could be a little codependent.
You talking to yourself,
right? And I could be a little demanding, you know. And sometimes he be trying like, well, you know, I'm not doing that. I be looking like, what the hell? Don't grow right now, goddamn. Just help me out.
Take care of me right now.
You know, so this happens in so many ways in our relationships, and what we got to do is we have to have the emotional maturity and the discipline. Discipline leads to maturity, right? So if you get disciplined about, no, I'm not going to, I feel bad right now. I feel like I messed up, or I feel like I should just, you know, do whatever that person wants, right? For that example, just because I feel that doesn't mean I need to do that. So you have to discipline yourself to stay where you need to stay and do what you need to do, right? So that you can grow, and ultimately your relationship grows. Absolutely. Absolutely. Kenya says that is true about codependency. So again, that number one was, you know, you're going to get reactions from people who you think care about you, and they probably very much do care about you. They're not going to like it. It's going to make you feel guilty. It's going to make you feel negative. And that's a growing pain. That can cause you to, you know, pause, and you need not do that. You need to be aware of that, and you need to anticipate that, right? Anticipate that. All right. So that's number one. Number two, the second way that growing pains can hold you back when change is on the horizon.
Yeah. So the second way, y'all, is that you start to do the stanky leg and you think you're about to fall. You start to do the stanky leg and you think you're about to fall.
Okay.
So basically what I'm saying here, y'all, is that you get wobbly knees. You're going through your process of transformation and change, and you get wobbly knees, you falter. You come up short in some respects. And so you start doing the stanky leg again. You think you're about to fall. You think you're about to go down, about to hit the canvas.
Shaky.
You're getting woozy. You know, you stumbling back. You're looking for the ropes. You know, you're doing all of that because, again, this whole change process is a difficult and it's a challenging process. So you don't know whether or not you can actually see it through. And so the thing that gets in the way, or the growing pains, is really going through the process of stumbling, but still maintaining your balance even through the stumbling. Maintaining some sense of awareness of your surroundings even through the stumble. Maintaining some sense of the falter. Don't allow the stumble, stanky leg, to deter you from continuing to move forward. And present a broad-based perspective, and knowing that, again, stumbling is a part of the process. Whenever you do some addiction work, what you'll realize is that, you know, relapse is a part of recovery. Relapse is a part of the recovery process. And so again, to expect that you're going to get on this journey, get on this weight loss journey and lose 30 pounds right off the bat, you might gain some, you might lose some. You're going to lose some, you're going to gain some. It's a roller coaster ride, y'all, when it comes to your relationship. You might attempt to connect. You may then, on one particular day, may not be feeling your partner. And so you disconnect and you withdraw. but you're going back and forth trying to increase the intimacy and the connection in the relationship. But it's an ongoing process. And so gradually you're experiencing growth. And it's because you're not allowing those temporary setbacks, those to get you off track.
So I have another example. So I'm going to read this to you guys. Sitting across the table from her husband, Shannon began to feel very sad. This was the 4th time she tried to explain to him her reasons for wanting to quit her reliable job and enroll in graduate school. He will never understand why I need to make this change, she thought to herself. He has said, we might be able to do this. I think we can do it, but I just really don't want you to because this is just not anything that's really important right now. And she said, understand, maybe he's right. Maybe this is a mistake. Sometimes we hear from the Creator, we get a whisper, we get a nudge, we get an omen, we get a sign, and it happens over and over and over again. Sometimes we don't even have to get a push or a nudge. Sometimes it's just something that's been sitting in our heart, been sitting in our belly for a long, long time. And, at some point, you're going to have to birth that thing out. You're going to have to stretch out and attempt to execute and implement what it is that's sitting within you. And I have to speak for myself. Even as I think about my relationship with you, and my husband and I, as you all, I think most of y'all know, we work together. And over the years, there have been things that have been the Art of Overcoming, that's a group that I have here on Facebook, The Art of Overcoming with Iana Ma'at. Check it out. And it's now developed into a radio show in the DMV. Okay, let me get
It's not just in the DMV.
It's not just in the DMV, right? It is all over. You can listen online and it is all over. But the station is here in the DC metro area, in the DC area. So look, y'all. So I've had things that I have wanted to do. And as we have talked about different things, different projects and that kind of thing in our business, I've gotten very frustrated over the years and along the way because there have been certain things that I feel pulled towards, I feel called to, and he's just like not interested. He's like, oh, no, not so much. I know he's been frustrated because there's been certain things that come up for him over and over again. Yes. And I'm just like, please, this is like, paint drying. Like this is so, not interesting. I'm not attracted. And so the thing that I want to lift up.
Ooh.
Very good, babe. That was good. so look. So let me hurry up and get to the point. The point is, y'all, that is this. So I will become discouraged. I can speak for myself. I have become discouraged along the way on my path. Okay, I've become discouraged.
Y'all laughing at me?
They're laughing at me. What was that? I've become discouraged because I have leaned so hard on my husband over time. I've leaned so hard on him in our professional life together. I'm used to sitting with him, next to him, processing it with him, taking the next move. You're gonna do this part, I'll do this part, right? And there's something to understand and recognize. It is not for your boo. It's not for your friend. It's not. Michael said, first time I heard I usually do a run. Is that what you call it? So look, there's some things, y'all, that you have to do. It's just for you to do. And I'm just going to get spiritual. Call I usually to do the things he called me to do. He did not call me to do the stuff he called I usually to do. That's how you do it. Like that. There are some things that you have to just stretch out on alone, and there are going to be places in your marriage and your relationship where people just don't get you. That the person, your husband, your wife, your partner, they just like, yeah, I'm just not with it. And so you've got to find a community of people who are like-minded, right? Find other people who are vibing on that same space, and you have to, most importantly, lean into yourself and practice really centering yourself and making sure that you figure out how do you get what it is that you're looking for from your partner from yourself. From yourself. Because that's all. I mean, I just want to be that. I'm like, does that sound good? What do you think about that idea, boo? Like, does it get you excited? Do you think that it would, be successful? But, he was like, I don't know. I don't really think so. I'm like, what the hell? And my feelings, because my feelings are all in it. And so I've got to stop doing what? Looking externally for somebody else. And I'm going to say this to y'all, to give you what it is you can only give yourself. Nobody else is required to give you authorization, to give you validation, right? You don't need all of that when it comes to pains can hold you back in your marriage. Is this. You realize that you're losing someone. Yeah. This is a big one, y'all. You realize you're losing someone that's important to you or that you may be at risk for losing them. Oh my. You're losing them. And so that gets very scary and you just begin to back it on up. Like, I'm not trying to do that. You know what I mean? Because if I really push forward with whatever it is that I'm trying to do in my life or for the life of my family or whatever, like this is going to be a loss.
And what does it mean for it to be a loss? It means that you're by yourself.
Yeah. I mean, you might be by yourself in terms of the relationship. It might like dissolve. Like some things are that deep, right? Yeah. And you also may lose an aspect of the relationship that you have with your partner. You could always share with them in this way. You could always come to them. And now if you fully step into what it is that you're wanting to step into, then you're just gonna lose that part. That's over. You know how have you ever done that? Have you ever talked on the phone to somebody who was a friend from back in the day, I don't know, high school, childhood, college, whatever, right? When you were younger and you got on the phone with them and you saw them out somewhere, keep in touch here and there, but not as frequently as you used to. And when you get on with them, you're like, waiting for the conversation to shift because they're still talking about like, yeah, man.
Same old.
And I was at the club, and do you know, la 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 la. I mean, whatever it is, it could be the club, it could be whatever. And you're just kind of like, I'm over that. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm sleepy. You know what I mean? I'm not thinking about no club. No, I don't want to go. I don't want to leave at 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
10 o'clock, I want to get on the couch and turn on the television. And so you cool with that. Y'all are different. You kind of grown. But that's all they're talking about. That you all are just disconnected now. And there's a sadness there because you realize like, oh, I think that we've kind of grown apart because there's nothing else that this person has to really share or give to me, and I certainly don't even really feel comfortable sharing with them because they might be like, what are you doing all that for?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Could you calm down? We're supposed to be going to the club. No, I'm going to sleep. It's a loss.
It's a loss, and it's a really natural part of the process. I mean, if you look at the 5 stages of grief, you got denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. You can't overlook the piece about depression because in the experience of losing something, losing an aspect of your relationship, there's pain that's attached to that. There's hurt, there's fear, there's worry, there's concern, there's some anxiety that may be attached to that, which may be accompanied by some element of depression. Like life as it was, it's no longer the way it's going to be. No longer the way it's going to be going forward. And so again, that relationship, the way it used to be, it's going to change, it's going to shift, and hopefully for the better. But in some situations, again, if you're moving on and you're moving beyond, then it ain't going to be the same, y'all. And so there's sadness that might be attached to that. But again, you're growing. So you're responsible for your growth and going to the next level.
All right. So again, please share this video 3 ways, and then we will be done for you to keep on moving. For you to stop playing, start pushing, for you to keep going and growing through the process change in your relationship. And I just want to shout out some folks' comments. Danielle, I appreciate your comment. She says, I feel like it's very difficult when the change is one-sided. Feels like many issues are left unresolved, especially if the other party feels that there is nothing that they need to change. Especially if the other party feels that there's nothing that they need to change, because we're talking about you making a change, but sometimes everybody need to make a change. Like this can't work if you're not on board, right? And so what would you say about that in terms of?
We actually addressed this for those of you all who
I gotta go get some tissue.
Go ahead. For those of you who missed our Black Marriage Day DC workshop, My Marriage Matters. Union Temple Baptist Church, you really missed the phenomenal experience where couples came together and had the opportunity to share with each other, get insight from us and also from each other, eat some good food, do some dancing, et cetera, et cetera. But one of the activities that we did, y'all, was one where it helped the couples to really expand their perspective on what it means to be in a relationship and what the responsibilities of themselves individually is in a relationship. And so we had couples divide themselves or separate out and look at the differences in terms of the barriers that block you in your relationship, But also we were looking at the things that might help you in your relationship. And so one of the areas in which we had couples separate is based off of personalities, and also based off of preferences. So if you feel yourself to be a listener, a talker, a thinker, a feeler, we had people go to different quadrants of the room. And again, we asked them a particular question. We said, what is it about your preference? What is it about your preference that helps your relationship? And what is it about your preference or your inclination that hinders your relationship? And so Danielle, thanks Fine29 for shouting the event out. Thanks, we really appreciate that. She was in the house. And so Danielle, to answer your question, again, you say that it's one-sided, but we like to encourage couples as well as individuals to ask themselves that question. What is it that you're doing in terms of your perspective or actually doing that's helping the relationship? But you can't stop there, because we have a tendency to only think about what it is that we're doing as being right, as being what it is that we're doing only helping the relationship. I want you to go to the next step and ask yourself this question: what is it that I'm doing that's hindering the relationship? How's my perspective possibly hindering or putting a roadblock in the forward movement of our relationship? And so when it comes to you and your partner, Danielle, again, that's a question that he or she has to answer. If you feel like, they're exclusively focusing on in terms of making the change and transformation, they're not identifying the areas in which they're coming up short. And so they got to look at that piece. They really got to look at that piece, and everybody should be asking that question.
Yeah. Because sometimes your perspective is just, you don't have no one has the monopoly on perspective. Like, I just want to go ahead and say that when I went to go get some tissue, I got a few potato chips. And I already know right now, my husband, when we finish this, he's going to be like, why did you bring potato chips?
You got the mic right there, so you about to be crunching in everybody's ear, boo.
Why did you bring the potato chips?
Let the potato chip melt in your mouth? I mean, come on, man.
No, I'm crunching the potato chips and I'm eating them because that's what I want. And there's nobody got the monopoly on perspective, so chips is okay on the live stream. He'll be like, why was you bringing chips over to the live stream? That is just not cool, right?
Thumbs down the chips.
No. Okay, so what did you just do? What number is this? Did you just do this?
Nah, we didn't do that. You just answered. I just basically spoke to that question today.
So it's your go.
All right. So when it comes to a couple of ways or 3 ways to keep growing in your relationship and coping with change, the thing that I want to lift up here is that it's important to talk to the people in your life about what you are changing and why you are making the changes. What are you changing and why are you making the changes? And so you can't share this with everybody, because sometimes people, like, again, if you backslide, if you get the stanky leg going on, people will put that thing in your face all day long. You want to make sure that you find a safe space to share what it is that you're changing and why you're changing it, for what reason. Again, you want somebody who's going to be a cheerleader, somebody who's going to encourage you and support you in that process. And hopefully your partner is that person, the person who can actually stand up and applaud you, encourage you, support you, root you on, and push you out there and give you shout outs and all of that type of stuff, because that's what you need. You want somebody in your corner. Right. You want a hype man. You want a Flavor Flav in your corner. But that's what you want. You want a Flavor Flav.
But let me say this. Also, when you don't get the response that you want right away, right? And maybe it takes a while for your partner to get on board or to understand where you're coming from, you need to see that as a momentary adjustment to change and not a blanket disapproval of everything that you're doing.
Say that again.
It's a momentary adjustment to change, even if the moment is like a few months. You know what I'm saying? Oh, really? You want to hear one of my chips? A momentary adjustment to change. And so if we just shift our perspective and allow ourselves and our partner.
What's up, Bruce?
Right? Our partner, Bruce, is on. Hey, Bruce. Our partners to just have some grace as they start to wrap their minds around what's happening. Then things will be a lot better. So look at it in that way. You're not going to always get the response you want. It is a momentary adjustment. Allow them to have time to adjust, and don't take it as a complete and overall rejection of everything you've ever done in any way on this issue.
That's hard, though,
y'all. It is, because people, I know it's hard for you. Tell the truth.
You're sensitive.
No, but I don't do if I say something, the left is wrong, you'd be like, well, the left and the right and the up and the down is. I didn't say nothing about the right and the up and the down. You always bring, not always, but you'll oftentimes bring in some other aspect, and I'm like, that's not what I'm talking. Let's just bring that down. No, he's not. Let's move on. Okay, guys, here's the second, and then we have one more. This is number 5, the fifth thing here, fifth point. And again, we're talking about, if you're just joining us, defeating the fear of change in your relationship, especially when change is requiring growth, emotional growth, and requiring you to do some things that might not be popular with other folks and that really feel overwhelming and hard for you. How do you do that in your marriage and your relationship so that you can maintain who you are and continue to grow who you are while you are still in a committed relationship? So my husband, actually, you did this one. You just took this one off. Yeah. But all change, we'll say again, it happens in fits and starts. Fits and starts. It's not like what we see on the movies, and it's not like what we would like to think of ourselves as. I'm very decisive. I made up my mind. This is what I'm doing. I wrote out a plan. I shared it with some people. Some people didn't like it. I said, that's okay. And then the next day, I started to execute it. 3 months later, here I am. I succeeded. If only. That's not usually how it happens. We're usually in our mind going back and forth on it, right? Sharing it with a few people, a little bit hesitant, right? We share with our partner, or maybe we're asking them to do some things differently. And, they ain't feeling it. They push back. You argue. You feel okay about it. You get a word from something. You're like, yes, that's what I need to do, or that's what we need to do. And so it happens in fits and starts. That's the process. And we just need to anticipate that and expect that to be a part of the process. And let me say this, losing your momentum is not a failure. Losing your momentum is not a failure. And I had to learn that, y'all, because I'll get some amazing momentum. My momentum can just, I'll be moving. I'm like, yes, just slow down. Just banging stuff out. And then all of a sudden I just kind of come to a standstill. I get a little scared and I come to a standstill. And then I'm like feeling like, oh, I guess I'm just, failure. I'm not making any success in any way at all. And that's just not the case. So just remember the momentum is a beautiful thing, but you can't maintain that at all times, right? You have to be still sometimes. Yeah. It's not a sign of failure. Have compassion for yourself. Recognize it as a pause, whether it's a pause in your marriage, a pause in your own personal development, and then keep going. Pick up and keep going.
So I want us to have a moment of collective transparency on this live stream. A moment of collective transparency.
Say it again. Because that sounded so deep to say one time. Because I got to go, ooh, go ahead.
I want us to have a moment of collective transparency on this live stream.
Yeah.
And so my wife, she just mentioned that, when it comes to this whole transformation process, it occurs in fits and starts. And so there's somebody on this live stream right now, whether it be in your relationship or in your personal life, that has started something and has stopped. And so tomorrow is another day, y'all. Tomorrow is another opportunity. And so in this collective moment of transparency, I want people to share what it is that they're going to pick back up tomorrow that they may have possibly dropped off today or last week or last week.
Oh, in their relationship.
In your relationship, but also individually and personally too. Because again, when you're better, then you can bring the best of you to your relationship.
What is it? What
is it? Y'all, I want y'all to share. What is it that you dropped off that you're going to pick back up tomorrow? I'm going to share one thing. I'm about to get on the treadmill tomorrow.
Oh.
Yes, tomorrow I'm getting on the treadmill.
You really dropped that.
No, I have. I haven't been on in the past couple of weeks, I think.
Really?
Yeah. I'm getting on the treadmill tomorrow, y'all. What y'all gonna do? What are y'all gonna do? Anybody courageous enough to share what they're gonna do tomorrow or even tonight that they dropped off?
Oh, I know what I can do.
I see Dave says being a better husband and supporting my wife. Okay. Dave also said school online. That's what's up, Dave.
Online. That's what's up. I'm gonna pick back up my
Miss Jade said, she said, I'm gonna pick up my mouth and keep my mouth shut and say only positive things. That's what's
all right, up. Jay. She said she's gonna watch that mouth.
Right? They hitting the gym too.
Speak life, and don't speak harmful things to your partner.
Tony said online class, Rita Chapman.
Yes, Miss Rhea said her fitness, and Dave also said hitting the gym. And for me, spiritual practice, making sure that I've been starting to lean back in when I fell off. You notice that? Yes, times is hard, but I've been going through some things, but picking back up my spiritual practice in the morning, and making sure that I have time to be centered in the beginning of the day so that my day can be better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I want to say this last one. Thank you guys for sharing because I really appreciate it. Oh, Rochelle said she's going to try to take part in what he wants to do. All right, girl, that's good. That's good because I think it'd be hard. That can be hard depending on what it is. I understand. Okay,
so
watch
the game with me?
That's what Rochelle said she was going to do. I didn't say I would. That wasn't my spiritual practice.
Let's watch a game with me. Let me educate you on
you don't really want. You're just saying that. You don't really want to do that, do you?
Then, you know, you can post up on me.
Can I just do that? And without knowing what's going on in the game? We'll talk about that later. Okay.
I can dunk on you.
Well, bring it down. So the last one, guys. The last one. Oh, Michael, I got to shout yours out. Michelangelo said, work on another chapter in my forthcoming book. Yes, Baghdad. All right. I didn't know that. Right? Yes. Okay. That's what's up. All right. And so here's what it is here's the last point. Some people in your life are going to be inspired by your growth. Your partner is going to be inspired. Hopefully they'll get there if they're not initially. Maybe your children will be inspired, people in your community. And they might even begin to change. They might start to say, let me do some things differently. Or you know what? She was right. I do need to look at this a little bit closer and I need to make some changes. Some people will be threatened by it. Mm-hmm. Some people will just not like it. And you just need to understand that that's just what it is. And sometimes we don't want to say it. We don't want to see it. But as soon as you name it for what it is, then the easier it will be for you to deal with it. Some people are going to be threatened by your change. Yeah. And, you know, they're going to try to hold you back straight up. And so what do you have to do? You have to set boundaries. You have to take care of yourself because you won't be able to continue moving along your path if you don't set boundaries. And you can set boundaries while still being in a relationship with someone. Everybody doesn't have to be cut off. Some people can be so stuck in their lives and so focused on, you know, what it is that they're doing and, you know, why it is that what you're trying to do is not, you know, good or right or whatever, that you do find that you just have less and less in common with them. And it's just time to cut it. You got to cut it. Like, you know, it really ain't nothing here. And, you know, I just want to say this might be your girlfriend from back in the day. This might be the coworker. This might be the person in the community, but it might be your boo. Oh, because some people are in relationship with the wrong person. And my husband and I always say that we are definitely fans of marriage. We are fans of committed relationships where people are really trying to go to the next level. But not by any means necessary. If you're with the wrong person, right, you're doing the wrong thing, then you got to check that. You got to be willing to see it so that you can make room for the right person in your life. So remember that you have to set boundaries even if you don't set boundaries in your own marriage, then things can get really funky and really foul.
That's true.
That's how you take care of yourself. You can love and say, no, this is how I'm taking care of me. This is how I'm taking care of us. And I know you don't get it. And I know you don't understand it. But I just want you to know that I love you and I love myself enough to do what it is I know I have to do. And so when we're willing to go to those places, some of what we've talked about tonight, you know, it involves saying things you've not said before. Right. It involves, you know, taking up a mission that you really don't feel comfortable with. It involves being truthful. It involves having some real talk. And you've got to make a decision if you want to grow, because at the beginning of this live stream, what we said is that growth does happen naturally over time, but real deep, lasting, sustaining growth, it is a choice. You must pursue it because you can be the same person at 56, 66, 76, 86, and 96 that you were at 16. You can be. It's your choice. And so if you really want to grow, you got to be willing to deal with the fear of change. And you got to know that when you go and lean into these places of discomfort, you will get to the other side. I told my husband some things that he did not like. I told him some things about himself and how he was all up in my sauce. And I'm like, dude, get some boundaries. He has told me some things. Have you not? He's told me some things and said, babe, you need to check yourself because you got too much going on and you got too much, you know, energy and anger and whatever. And you need to like bring it down. Like, you ain't right. And I'm not going for that. You can do all that over there by yourself. We have checked each other, and we have stayed in love and committed to one another because we really want to grow. We really want to move. We really want to be all that we're supposed to be. And so change is a constant if you're really serious about moving to the next level in your relationship, right?
Absolutely. It really is, y'all. So we encourage you all to, again, turn towards yourself, challenge yourself to elevate and go to the next level. In addition to that, your movement, your growth, your transformation will be hopefully inspiration to your partner to make some changes so that they can go to the next level as well. But y'all, you can't do any of this stuff. You really can't do any of this stuff if you're not really serious about being intentional about your own personal elevation and going to the next level. You got to make sure y'all to stop playing. Got to stop playing. And please start pushing.
All right, guys. See you next time.
All right, peace.